Our guest today is the very Reverend Vincent Trainer, who is the prior at St. Gregory Abbey in Shawnee, Oklahoma. He is also an honorary member of the Citizen Band of Potawatomi Indians of Oklahoma. First of all, Father Vincent, I would like to ask you, what is the historical relationship between the Catholic Church and the Citizen Band of Potawatomi Indians of Oklahoma?
Well, that's a pretty big question, but in a few words, let me say that the Catholic Church is represented at least by the Benedictine Order, a Catholic order of priests and brothers, came to the United States in 1875 and were requested by the Potawatomi Indians to come to Indian Territory to open a school for their children. And the Benedictines from France accepted that invitation. The Potawatomi Indians provided them with some property, and already in the year 1875 they had built a school which flourished at a very early time, many Indians being instructed there by the fathers and the brothers. And that relationship increased, if I may say, over the years, until finally, because of circumstances, mainly the Indians leaving that particular territory, it was necessary for the fathers to seek other ground where they might be more effective as teachers. Our relationship with the Potawatomis as such and Indians in general, I would say, dwindled over the years between the early 20s until recent times when a very good program for Indians has been started at our college in Shawnee now, here in Shawnee, Oklahoma. We have several Indians in several programs, both in the college program and outside the college program. We've also tried to interest teachers in schools, particularly in this county, public schools throughout the county, to come to St. Gregory's at least once a year, where we have Indians come to instruct them on how to instruct Indian children. I believe in the past 2 or 3 years that program has been very successful. There are such things there as an evening of how Indians dress and how people ought to appreciate the things that they make and wear. We also have an evening devoted to foods that Indians prepare and eat. We have an evening where such things as social dancing, powwows, are explained to the teachers so that they would have a greater appreciation for those youngsters who come to them living in our society and pretty well members of the society, but still with a background that needs to be appreciated by those who are teaching them.
Okay, our guest today has been the very Reverend Vincent Trainer, prior of St. Gregory Abbey in Shawnee, Oklahoma. Thank you.
Oh, all right.
To the petting game, it is real important.
I function in the capacity of program planner for the Potawatomi tribe under an Office of Native American Programs grant, which the tribe has. And in this capacity as program planner, I work with the various programs of the tribe and try to obtain funding for more programs and then implement the programs when the funding comes about. At the present time, the tribe has 4 or 5 different programs which are operating. One of these programs is the Community Health Representatives Program, and I believe that further on in the day today you'll be talking with the CHRs about that program. We have an Arts and Crafts Program which has been operated for a couple of years and which is taught by a Potawatomi art instructor and which meets twice a week and has met for the past couple of years. We have a multipurpose center for older adults, and an information and referral services program that operates in conjunction with the Multipurpose Center program. This program services people who are 65 years or older, Indians and non-Indians within the community of Shawnee, and has lots of activities and programs that are of interest to the older adults. The Information Referral Services program, like I said, operates in conjunction with the Multipurpose Center program and functions as a referral and information source for programs and agencies that have services or have benefits for the older people. At the present time, we have been funded for a daycare center to take care of Indian children from 6 months of age up to kindergarten age. And when this program gets underway, it will be very rich in Indian curriculum along with basic educational curriculum for the preschool age. It will have a very fine health services program for these young children and will operate with a staff of 7 teachers, a director, a social worker, a nurse, and a secretary. And we feel like this will be an opportunity to have a lot of parent involvement or family involvement with what's going on with their children and the development of the child within the family. We're also pursuing a program for an alternative educational planning grant, which will initially plan for a period of 12 months to put together an alternative school here in Shawnee that will operate in conjunction with the Shawnee Public School System. The alternative school will provide curriculum that is specialized for youth with problems or who have special academic, social, or psychological needs that could only be met within an alternative school setting. I have to get a breath here. I'm ready. Here is the basic structural arrangement of the Potawatomi tribe. The tribe is operated by a 5-member business committee. These business committee members are elected for staggered terms for a period of 2 years. The chairman, Gerald Peltier, is also the tribal administrator, and we have a tribal roles official who keeps charge of all the tribal roles and keeps them updated, an office manager and a bookkeeper, and a business manager and myself. And we have 7 different programs that operate at the present time, which we oversee and make the decisions on from a day-to-day basis. The Community Health Representatives program is composed of 5 community health representatives, and their function is the same as the CHR functions. Their functions are anywhere. They do a lot of home visits and take care of the health needs of the Potawatomi people and the other Indian people within this geographical area. The Environmental Health Maintenance Program is operated by an environmental health specialist who is also a CHR. And the function or the purpose of this program is to do environmental health related work within the homes and on the land of the Potawatomi tribal members. Any type of garbage or sewage needs are taken care of. Any type of job such as work that's done with a brush hog or any type of cutting down of brushes or trees or bushes is included in on the program. And we have been real fortunate with this program because we've been able to utilize 2 workers in a Title X Work Saves Energy program funded to our local Action Incorporated by the state of Oklahoma. And within the context of this program, we were able to do a winterization program where we went out and we actually did winterization activities on a total of about 60 homes, which better prepared these people to live comfortably within their homes during the cold of the winter. And we hope to be able to continue this program this next year. The Potawatomi Multipurpose Center for Older Adults has been operating now for a period of time of 1 year, and it was funded by the Special Unit on Aging, State of Oklahoma, as was the Information and Referral Services Program. These two programs operate in conjunction with one another over at the St. Benedict School here in Shawnee. By the very nature of the program, it does service older adults 65 years or older, and it tries to get them involved in all kinds of meaningful activity and projects that take place or that are of their own choosing. We're required to have 3 educational programs a month and 2 health programs a month, and the staff over there also do a lot of special things like have additional lecturers or speakers come in to speak to the older people, and they hold a salad luncheon once a month, and they get involved with service projects within the community. We very recently undertook a survey of all older adults in Shawnee in conjunction with the Mayor's Council on Aging, and we did a random survey of about 250 older adults in the community and came up with the actual needs of the older people that are not being met by present programs. The first of these needs was the need of transportation. And about 6 months ago, the Potawatomi tribe was funded for a maxi bus, which partially takes care of the transportation need at the present time. It takes the Indian people to the diabetics clinics twice a week, and it picks up older people, all older people within the community, and takes them to their doctor appointments. It takes them to pay their bills, to do their banking, to do their shopping, to the nutritional programs that operate within Shawnee, and of course it takes them to the Multipurpose Center program for the activities and the recreation there. But we hope to follow up more on these needs in the future as determined by this survey of which I just spoke. The Information and Referral Services Program operates for a 7-county area in the co-ed district, and these staff keep files on all the resource agencies and organizations within the 7-county area that provide benefits and services for the older people. It also functions as a referral agency for those people who have particular problems and who need to be referred on to specialists or to agencies who deal only in that particular problem area. The tribe has operated traditionally from a Tribal Government Development Program, TGDP, which for all Indian tribes, this program is being discontinued and is being replaced by a basic grant under the new Self-Determination Educational Assistance Act, of which all Indian tribes are becoming more and more familiar every day. And we feel like that under this basic grant that we're going to be able to strengthen our tribal government considerably and bring on any type of resource people we need to do future planning and long-range planning in all the different areas in which the tribe has needs or interests. At the present time, we do operate a Title X program, which is a commercial pecan enterprise. And this program has operated now for a period of about 8 months and is progressing very well at the present time. We feel like that it's been one of the more successful Title X programs in this area, and we hope to apply for some more Title X monies when the opportunity presents itself. We also operate an arts and crafts program, which has been ongoing for 2 years now. And this arts and crafts program is taught by a Potawatomi art instructor, and a number of crafts are taught to the students within the classes, including beadwork and leather work, and I think they're getting into silversmithing and perhaps macrame and a lot of different things in the future. And it has enabled a lot of our Indian people to become experts in some kind of craftsmanship, and to many times supplement their income by what they have learned to do within the arts and crafts program. Very recently we have began pursuing an educational programs division for the tribe, and this has come about for various reasons. The number one reason being the most apparent reason that that's kind of where a lot of the hope of the future of the Potawatomi tribe lies, is within the education of the youth and the children of the tribe. We have been funded from HEW, Title IV program, for a daycare center, which is to begin on July 1st of this year. And this daycare program will take care of children of working parents and will allow these parents to work during the daytime and not have to pay any money for child care expenses, and at the same time know that their children are getting a first-class education. This daycare program will hire a director and a nurse, a social worker, and 7 teachers and a secretary. And it will have a very strong educational curriculum built into it, along with a specialized Indian curriculum. And it will have a very fine health services program and an outreach program, wherein the parents will be brought in to the program and be brought closer into the needs of their children and how to deal with their children in these early years. We're also looking at a program for an alternative school that will operate in conjunction with the public school system of Shawnee. Now right now these plans are at the initial stage, and we're pursuing a planning grant under LEAA to do a 12-month planning period to put together an alternative school. If this program is funded, we hope to determine the actual needs of the children, Indian and non-Indian, within the community, and to compile programs, both academic programs and counseling programs, work, youth, learn programs, and any other programs that are necessary to meet these special needs of the children within the community. Was that any better?
The difference between the violin
Yeah. Let's see. Can I borrow your phone?
Sure.
And pencil, paper, and. What's area code in Washington?
202.
How do you call information there?
For Washington, 1-202-555-1212.
Are you going to try to get us duplicate slides of some of those things you showed at the drama?
Yeah.
Okay. Good.
Sure will.
Washington, D.C., I'd like the phone number for the American Indian National Bank. Washington, D.C. I'd like the phone number for the American Indian National Bank. American Indian. God damn, lady. Gerald L. Peltier is the chairman of the business committee of the Citizen Band of Potawatomi of Oklahoma. Mr. Peltier, I would like... I guess at this point, you know, the way you got organized there, you're really talking to the people now. So, okay, this is where we start from, this is who we are, this is where we are, and this is how we function, and so forth. Okay. So, I'm sure you used to making speeches.
Not too used to it. I'm used to a lot more preparation. Is it on now? I'm Gerald Peltier. I'm the chairman of the business committee for the Citizen Band Potawatomi Indians of Oklahoma. As chairman of the business committee, and I'm coordinate and bring any problems encountered in tribal business to the business committee. I am also the tribal administrator, and as such I'm deeply involved in all of the day-to-day details of tribal business. And I feel that a good place to start on this at this time is how we became the Citizen Band Potawatomi Indians of Oklahoma. The Potawatomi Indians moved from the Great Lakes area into Kansas. And because of a difference in characteristics, there was no compatibility between the two bands. So our band decided to move into Indian Territory in Oklahoma. They moved into an area designated as a reservation area. This area consists of Potawatomi County and the eastern edge of Cleveland County. And when they moved in, they found the area occupied by another tribe. And since there was no real answer to the problem, they decided to award allotments to the Citizen Band Potawatomi Indians, which they did. And most of those lands now, which were in trust at one time, have been sold off to the point where there is very little Potawatomi trust land under the BIA. Can we stop it for just a second? In 1870, the Citizen Band set up headquarters in Oklahoma, and since then have retained unity as a tribe. A business committee was organized, and the headquarters has always been the first Indian agency located south of Shawnee. And then when the lands around the agency were split up, east of what used to be the old Indian agency, at present time Mission Hill Hospital sits where the old agency sat, and we are directly east of there. In 1936, the Potawatomi became fully organized as a tribe under the Indian Welfare Act, and it's the Indian Welfare Act that furnishes authority for our Constitution. Under the Constitution, we have the council, which consists of 12,000 members of the tribe. We have the business committee, which is elected to handle tribal business for the tribe. The business committee consists of 5 members, the chairman, the vice chairman, secretary treasurer, and 2 council persons. We have a business office with regular employees which handle the day-to-day administrative details of the tribe. And we have the business committee. We keep the business committee informed. As the chairman and as the administrator, as I've said before, I'm deeply involved in all the day-to-day details of the programs. And we do all we can to keep the business committee fully informed so that we can legislate intelligently any problem which may be brought up at business committee meetings. We have several programs under the under tribal administration at this time. We have the CHR program. We have 5 CHRs working there. We have the Potawatomi stop it just a minute. We administer as a tribe several programs funded by the federal government. Mrs. Shanklin, our program planner, will give you a rundown on these. We have one program about to be finished here, and this is our Cultural Heritage Center building, which is funded by the EDA. Something we're proud of. We're proud of the way it was built. We're proud to have had the ability to build it and to have handled all of the details of building here in this office. It was built force account, which means that we were able to hire our own subcontractors for the various parts of the building. We were able to save quite a lot of money by doing it this way and add a lot to the building, which would not have been there had we been forced to let bids on it. The museum is added. We have much in the way of parking area, flagpoles. We will have matching entrances for the south entrance to the grounds and the north entrance to the ground. The grounds will be carefully landscaped. And we feel that we've stretched the $80 probably farther than any other tribe has ever been able to stretch it. And we're proud of the way the program is ending. The next most important thing in my mind for the next year is the industrial, the big industrial endeavor of the tribe is the compilation of a foundry complex package, which was presented some time ago to the Bureau of Indian Affairs for a guarantee on a loan to cover an alloy plant and a gray iron foundry. The alloy plant will cost in the neighborhood of $12 million and the foundry in the neighborhood of $13 million. hopefully these facilities will make the citizen band Potawatomi tribe independent enough that we can proceed as a tribe without feeling that we have to depend upon the BIA or other departments of the government for support. If these facilities work out as we plan, we can support our own our own social programs such as housing, health insurance, scholarship funds, even dental insurance, that type of thing. And these facilities will mean income, an income of several millions of dollars per year, and we feel that with the installation of these facilities that we are gaining real self-determination, that we can move alone as a tribe, that we can move on our own as a tribe without really relying upon anybody else for support of tribal programs.
Good. We can use that.
They're $600,000, $350,000 apart on Kessler's guarantee, and I think they'll probably get it resolved. Just on the guarantee part of it. So I think that's all it is. Yeah. Well, everybody's anxious to get it moving right away, so we ought to hear something today or tomorrow. As soon as I hear something, I'll let you know. All right. Bye. My name's Lee Falcons. I'm the business manager of the citizen band of the Potawatomi Indians of Oklahoma. In my role as business manager of the tribe, I'm interested in attempting to bring industry into the fold of the tribe so that the tribe can gain economic independence and self-determination. In that role, we've been involved in negotiating with people to put a foundry complex in the Shawnee area. It would be a rather sizable foundry. When the total project is complete, it would employ as many as 450 people. Would cost some $25.5 or $26 million. Would take 3 to 3.5 years to build, and after it was in complete operation would generate some $5 to $6 million a year income to the tribe. Philosophically, the tribal leaders have felt that if they had that kind of income, they could proceed on social programs and other programs of their own liking without concerning themselves with the problems associated with the federal bureaucracy. There have been other projects that we've looked into, but the foundry project has shown the most promise, and we hope that we can consummate the deal sometime in the next few weeks. The project is not my idea. It was started some 2 years ago, and negotiations have gone on through 2 tribal administrations, and it has just evolved into the situation that we find now. The raw materials would be scrap metal primarily, and some other ingredients, and we would generate castings. The foundry would be a 12,000 ton a year finished product foundry. I think that probably sums it up.
Yeah, that sounds pretty strong to the point.
Yeah.
More involved than what I thought about. We'll talk about that on this thing, and maybe somebody will get an idea somewhere and send us some money. Okay. He'll have to tell us when we're...
Okay, whenever you're ready.
I'm Beverly Hughes. I'm Secretary Treasurer of the Potawatomi Indians of Oklahoma. And my major capacity is I serve on the business committee, and I take care of the monies of the tribe and primarily take care of the rolls. We have 11,292 people enrolled at the present time, and our membership is in every state in the United States and some foreign countries. On my left here is Priscilla Sherrard. She's our tribal historian, and I'm going to be asking her a few questions about our tribal history, and she is going to be doing most of the talking, telling us about our history and how we came to be located here in Oklahoma. Priscilla, we just completed our first year's drama, which was extremely wonderful. I'm so proud of it. Would you like to start from the drama and tell us how we migrated on eastward?
All right. The idea, of course, wasn't our own. It was a forced removal from the Great Lakes area. And the main thing before we do leave the Great Lakes and Canada and the big waters, the big seas get you goomy, as it is said in our language, the big seas. We have a mystery in our tribe, wondering about where we get the name People of the Place of the Fire. This has a definite meaning because we were called this name not only by our own people but also by other tribes of Indians, the Chippewa, Ottawa, and Sacs, Foxes, and all other Indians, the Sioux, the different ones in the areas where our people came from up there. The thing that always comes to mind, of course, to any geologists or teachers of that have studied the land or professors, is that it could have been a place where volcanoes were erupting. But maybe someday, if we keep searching, we'll find the answer to this, the main question as far as we're concerned in our tribal history. In 1838, we had our forced removal from Indiana, and this is noted facts. The government had come in supposedly for a meeting with the Indians to make further plans with them to supposedly build their lives and have their lives just like all other people in the area. The main reason for the meeting, of course, was to gather the Indians in one spot. They had built a cage, and they got the chiefs. They took chiefs of the tribe out of the church where they met at this time and put them in this cage. And then they went into the village on Yellow River during the night and drove people out. The people that were driving them out were on horseback. They had torches and whips, and they had bayonets on guns and drove them out at whipping them, and they couldn't take the people that were ill or too elderly to walk, and they had to leave them behind. They wouldn't let them even fix any conveyance or anything where they could take them with them. The people that they had gathered from on up in Michigan and Wisconsin and in Illinois into this huge meeting they were having were told to bring their belongings with them, and they had told the others away from this area that they were going to be moving then. Well, they weren't allowed to take any of their belongings with them. They were left behind. They just all of their furs and everything and the only thing they had was what they had on their backs. And it was a forced march. They went through, and they stopped on the other side of Vincennes, Indiana. And then the thing that hurt them so bad was the fact that their priest, the Potawatomi were essentially very religious people, you know, and they had a priest at that time they dearly loved, Father Petit, and he couldn't go with the Potawatomi unless he had permission from his bishop, and his bishop at that time was in Quebec or Detroit. There's seems to be some sort of question there exactly where he was located. But if you can imagine the trouble it would be to try to get people at that time to, you know, get word to them and get word back. But luckily this bishop was coming in to visit, and he came in after they had already started the Indians on their march, the Potawatomi. And of course, I believe there were other people, other Indians that they had gotten in that weren't Potawatomi, because they were just wanting to get rid of all the Indians in that area. The priest was given permission to deliver the Potawatomi to what is now Kansas. And he was 2 days behind them. They had already made 2 days in their march, starting into their third day, when he came on his horse, and when they saw him coming, they were, it was, you know, it was just a spiritual thing that happened with them, because they were so completely depressed. You know, they were just in such a terrible mental state. They couldn't have Mass in the mornings like they were used to having, and he was such an uplifting person. He called them his children, you know, and he wanted so badly to help them. In fact, he had accepted their ways and enjoyed this so much, because he realized that there was such a vast difference between the way he had been reared in France and the Indians, and he was one of the few priests that realized that even though the Indians lived off of the land and they had their bark houses and teepees and the wigyaps or wigwams, for all of these were for different occasions, he realized that these people were living, as he would say, from nothing. And in fact, they just lived with what they found and what God gave them. And that's why they feel such a kinship, why they feel like they're part of the earth and part of the plants and the trees and the mountains, you know, the sky. Everything is, they feel like they're at one with all of their environment.
You know, you said this started in 1837? The migration started in 1837?
It had started before that time. Some of the Indians were moved into Council Bluffs.
How long did it take till they reached Kansas?
They were, it wasn't as long as what a person would think it would take. They covered about 15 miles.
Okay.
Let's see, it took, they'd march about 15 miles a day. Well, they marched about 15 miles a day, and then so many, see there was a fever. Now, there is no mention of what kind of fever it was, but it wasn't just among the Indians. The Indians didn't, that's one thing that they presented about the other races of people. They were bringing diseases in they never had. And they had this terrible fever, and children and adults alike were dying. You know, just, it was a terrible, terrible fever, whatever it was, and they were dying like you wouldn't believe. But when so many of them would be ill, then they'd have to stop, because when they were marching, of course, they'd be in places that, you know, where they wouldn't have any water until they got into Missouri. Now, when they got into Missouri, of course, they had plenty of water because there were streams all along in Missouri, although it was mountainous terrain through there. And of course it was, they thought it was going to be real nice because it was going to be like Missouri, you know, when they got where they were going. And they liked those nice cold streams and clear water, and they would stop and camp, you know, and by the, until they got into Missouri though, they had so much of this illness, and they had problem with the water too, of course. So by the time they got into Missouri then, and had been in Missouri for about 3 days, they started feeling better, because they were back in a country that was more like their own country that they had left. The priest that was waiting for them in Kansas was Father Hoyken.
Well, before we get down into Kansas, I'd like to know when the division was made and when we started breaking up into separate bands.
They were divided in the Great Lakes area.
The Great Lakes area. Some of the Potawatomi stayed in the Great Lakes area. And is that right?
Yes. The Hannibal, what they call the Hannibal Band now, and the St. Joseph and Pokagon's Band of Indians. The Menominee wasn't supposed to be moved, but he was. And of course, the Indians were very loyal to their chief, and he was the chief of the Indians that had lived in his village, of course, and he was well liked, of course, by Pokagon's band of Indians, and Tupinabee was another of the Indians that was he was put in this cage. By the way, they let them out of the cage after they crossed the Mississippi, I believe it was. Mm-hmm. But anyway, when they were within sight of the Mississippi when they let them out of the cages.
Well, we were still known as the Potawatomi Nation when we reached Kansas then.
Right. We've always been the Potawatomi Nation, although the people that still live in Wisconsin and Michigan, and some still live in Indiana. Well, Potawatomi live everywhere now, but even at that time, now there were people that were forced into this march that were of these other villages that shouldn't have been on the march, but they were. And it's, you know, there wasn't anything orderly about it except march. The people up there, now the prairie, the people that are Potawatomi that are known as the Prairie Band Indians were living on prairies west of the woods or forest Potawatomi. Now our tribe down here, the Citizen Band Potawatomi, are composed of all of the branches of the Potawatomi Nation. There are the 5 branches, and the Indians that had gone into into Council Bluff, Iowa. They had Abram Burnett is the man that he was one of the men that were helping and taking these Indians into the place that they had found for them in Council Bluff. Actually, it's 8 miles north of Council Bluff is where they had gone to. And they had them moved in there by 1841. That's where Billy Caldwell died, one of the chiefs died there. And Topenevy died at Council Bluff. But they were there until they opened up and they made allotments in Jackson County, Kansas. Now that's, most of the Indians in that area had gone there. And, you know, into that vicinity. The Indians that came in from Indiana went to a place south of what is now Kansas City. And it was roughly, I'd say, around 25 miles south of Kansas City, and they didn't like it. The only trees that were anywhere were right along these little, what they would call creeks, you know. And they were just small trees, not anything like they had been used to. And of course there was flat bald prairie out there, and there's no way that they could like that, because, you know, there wasn't their food, things that they had lived off of the land, you know. They couldn't go out and gather their wild rice. They couldn't go out and get their game that they've been used to going and getting, and it was just completely alien to their way of living. And their diet had to be supplemented, and it was supplemented with the wrong foods. Carbohydrates were supplemented, and so many of the different types of foods. And but they were persistent little people, because they got right in there and started building. The first thing they built was a church, always. Everywhere they moved, they'd always build a church first. And then they'd fix an addition onto the church for the school. Then they would set about building their own houses. And they were houses, bark houses, were their, people think that all Indians just lived in teepees. Well, a teepee was a thing that they could, it was a convenience, you know. They could carry them easily. They could fold them up and take them along when they went out to gather their wild rice or their, and they went to different places and set up camp to get their maple syrup, the sap, well, actually the sap from the maple sugar trees. And then what a lot of people call wigwam was used mostly for ceremonial rites. And you know, it was a sacred place where, you know, they would put these, build these, they'd put moss, they'd put these saplings up and bend them over and tie them. And then they would put moss, sphagnum moss, on, and reeds around, reed mats around on the top of this. And then they would put skins over that in case it rained, then it wouldn't come through and drip down into the area that they were in. Now, they always built a huge wigwam or wickiup when they had the harvest ceremony or green corn ceremony. And it was a great feast. The men wore beautiful, beautiful robes, and their headdresses, they had ornate, very ornate feathers in their headdresses at this time. It was one of the few times that they used feathers when they weren't going to war.
Just take a break here.
There were a lot of lands in Kansas as well as in Oklahoma. Many people don't know this. other than the Jackson County allotments that has turned into the Prairie Band Potawatomi Reservation. The people that were living close to the border of Missouri and Kansas were moved in 1848 to what is still called Silver Lake, Kansas, or close to St. Mary's, Kansas. That was 6 miles north and west of Topeka, Kansas. They were given allotments in that area, and the Cross Creek allotments, and they are called the Potawatomi Plats. Then they didn't think that they were going to be removed. The government came in and said all Indians that were able to take care of their own affairs and live like other people and just run their own lives and not live as reservation Indians would be removed into Oklahoma. They came down and they were given $100 to come in, and they could come in and select their reservation onto what they then called the Oklahoma or Indian Territory Reservation and pick their allotments here. They had always been builders, and they immediately started building again. The last Indians that came into this area were in the 1890s, and Sacred Heart Abbey, that was northeast of what is now Asher, Oklahoma, was the place that was their general meeting place, and any tribal affairs or meetings were carried on in that space. They came down through what is now known as the Chisholm Trail and started west. They had to ford all rivers, and they came east from an area north of Anadarko and came right straight across country north of the Canadian River, the South Canadian River, into this area. They started building their homes and their farms just as they had up in the Silver Lake area. Now, it wasn't just the people in that area that received these allotments. It was also people that were of the Prairie Band that were able to take care of their affairs also. Now, a lot of them, when I say take care of their affairs, there were a lot of people that of the Potawatomi that could take care of their affairs that didn't want to come into this area. They didn't want to move again. They wanted to stay and live in a reservation status. And so when they went around to interview them or check on them, well, they just acted like they, would just have to be the regular reservation Indians, because that was of their choosing. This wasn't unusual. It was a very normal thing to do. Well, the Citizen Band Potawatomi, several of them, although they did get allotments, didn't stay in this area. They went back into Kansas, and they still had their land, of course. Then others have stayed here and still live in this area and work in tribal affairs. And we have Potawatomi Indians that live all over the world now. They live in all and walk in all walks of life. They do all different kinds of work, just like all other citizens do. We were made officially citizens of the United States in 1924, and finally our land was we were supposed to be citizens of our land once again. It has evolved into we keep our tribal affairs going. We have our chairman and our leaders, and try to work with them and try to keep our tribal government and our heritage going. And we are now in the process of assembling our own museum. We have a Cultural Heritage Center, and it's a center to be very proud of. We have our perpetual fire in front of our building, and we are once again having a powwow, or our Indian dance, our sacred dances, once a year. As Indians, we live as Indians, we feel free, and when we have our powwow, we are once again at one with nature. We love nature, we try to take care of nature, and we will always, and thankfully, be Indians, and we're proud of it.